Welcome back to WION World is One. You're watching Speed News with me, Vidur Kathuria. Let's get started. US President Donald Trump says a deal is in sight to end the dispute over Greenland. Trump also seemed to back down from his threats to take over Greenland by force and impose tariffs on allies. The softening of tone came after Trump held talks with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Davos. The meeting came hours after Trump addressed the World Economic Forum in Davos and demanded immediate talks to discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States. US President Trump has announced a framework deal for the entire Arctic region after meeting NATO Secretary General Rutte. Trump took to Truth Social and wrote that an agreement had been reached to hold discussions to benefit all NATO nations. In his post, Trump said he will not impose his proposed tariffs against 8 nations. He also indicated that discussions will include his desire for a Golden Dome missile defense system over the region. He also told reporters it would also cover critical minerals. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia could fund $1 billion fee for membership of Trump's Gaza Board of Peace using frozen Russian assets. Speaking during a meeting of the National Security Council, Putin added that Russian frozen assets could also be allocated for post-war reconstruction in Ukraine. Trump has explained inviting Russia to the board by saying he wants all nations involved, especially those with powerful leaders. Saudi Arabia and 7 other Muslim-majority countries, including key Gaza mediators Qatar and Turkey, have said they will join US President Donald Trump's Gaza Board of Peace. The list also includes Jordan, Indonesia, Pakistan, and the UAE. Riyadh said the group backs President Trump's peace efforts. The joint statement, however, made no mention of payments. Earlier, reports said that invites were sent to dozens of world leaders requesting $1 billion for a permanent seat on the board. US President Donald Trump heaped praise on India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling him a fantastic leader and a great friend. Responding to a question on India-US trade, Trump said he had great respect for Prime Minister Modi and that a good deal was coming. The statement has drawn global attention as talks between the two countries remain unfinished. The latest comment comes amid ongoing tensions over tariff and global trade realignments. Demonstrators confronted US Border Patrol and ICE agents in Minneapolis as federal authorities pressed ahead with large-scale immigration enforcement operations. ICE vehicles stopped at a gas station where Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino briefly spoke with reporters. Demonstrators shouted insults at agents, accusing them of criminal behavior, and physically confronted officers as ICE vehicles pulled away. US Vice President J.D. Vance will visit Minneapolis to deliver remarks focused on restoring law and order in Minnesota and hold a roundtable with local leaders and community members. Vance's visit comes as tensions have escalated in Minneapolis this month over immigration and customs enforcement operations. Protests erupted in Minneapolis following 2 shootings involving federal law enforcement. Ghislaine Maxwell, the jailed associate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, has agreed to testify under oath before the congressional committee investigating the Epstein files. According to the committee chairman, James Comer, who is leading the investigation, Maxwell will depose virtually on February 9th. Maxwell's legal team previously said she would decline to answer questions under her constitutional right to remain silent unless she is granted legal immunity. Iranian authorities say 3,117 people have been killed during protests that first erupted in late December. But activists say actual toll could be many times higher due to a harsh crackdown. Demonstrations and strikes initially sparked by economic grievances turned into a mass movement against the clerical leadership that has ruled the country since the 1979 revolution. The Iranian regime has condemned the protest wave as a terrorist incident characterized by violent riots fueled by the US. Israeli strikes killed at least 3 journalists in Gaza, according to the enclave's civil defense agency. The journalists were identified as Mohammad Salah Kashta, Abdul Rauf Shat, and Anas Ghanim. Their bodies were taken to Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah. The strike reportedly occurred in Al-Zara neighborhood, southwest of Gaza City, an area where civilian activity is ongoing. According to eyewitnesses, the journalists had been using a drone to capture images of aid distribution by the Egyptian Relief Committee. Israeli military says it struck 4 crossings along the Syria-Lebanon border that was used by Hezbollah to smuggle weapons, after earlier launching fresh strikes on the militant group in Lebanon. According to Lebanon's health ministry, 19 people were wounded in the strike in the South Lebanon town of Kanari, 5 of whom were taken to hospital. The Israeli army said it was striking Hezbollah targets in response to the group's repeated violations of the ceasefire understanding. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, will soon visit the United States, according to reports. She will be the first sitting Venezuelan president to visit the US in more than a quarter of a century, aside from presidents attending the UN meetings in New York. The invitation reflects a major shift in relations between Washington and Caracas since US conducted a military operation in Caracas that captured Nicolas Maduro and brought him to the United States to face charges. Official campaigning for general elections in Bangladesh has begun. This would be the first election since the 2024 uprising that ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Thousands gathered for BNP chief and Prime Minister hopeful Tariq Rahman's rally. Elections will take place in Bangladesh on February 12th. Philippine journalist Frenchie Cumpio has been found guilty of financing terrorism and sentenced to at least 12 years in jail. Press freedom groups have slammed the court verdict as a travesty of justice. 26-year-old Cumpio was arrested in February 2020 after troops raided her boarding house in the middle of the night and allegedly found a hand grenade, firearm, and communist flag in her bed. Rights groups say Cumpio has been targeted for her reporting, which criticized the police and military. Three Hong Kong activists who organized annual Tiananmen vigils face trial today under the national security law that could land them in prison for up to 10 years. The trio and the Hong Kong Alliance, which organizes the vigil, are charged with incitement to subversion under the security law, with the no jury trial expected to last around 75 days. The Hong Kong Alliance was founded in May 1989 to support students holding democracy and anti-corruption rallies in Beijing. The death toll from a fire at a shopping mall in Pakistan's Karachi has risen to 55. The port city's largest fire in more than a decade broke out late on Saturday and quickly spread through the shopping complex. Famous for its 12,000 family-owned stores selling wedding clothes, toys, crockery and other goods, firefighters said on Wednesday they retrieved up to 25 bodies from the debris. At least 3 people were killed when a private bus caught fire after colliding with a container lorry in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. The bus was travelling from Nellore in Andhra Pradesh to Hyderabad in Telangana when its right side tyre burst. The sudden burst caused the driver to lose control, leading the vehicle to jump the road divider and crash into a container lorry coming from the opposite direction. Several people are missing after a landslide at a campground in the New Zealand tourist hotspot of Mount Maunganui. Eyewitnesses' videos shot from a helicopter showed rubble that had slid off a hill near a campsite and damaged structures and camper vans below. Several other landslides were also seen in footage from the helicopter. Rescuers are working to locate survivors and the campsite has been evacuated. At least 2 people have died in Greece after torrential rain flooded streets, homes and businesses in Athens and other parts of the country. In the southern Athens suburb of Glyfada, a woman died after being hit by a car that was carried away in flash floods. The southern suburb was one of the worst hit by the floodwaters, burying cars and entering homes. The fire brigade received hundreds of calls to pump water out of flooded buildings in Athens. The rainstorm is expected to move to the eastern part of the country today. Asian markets rebounded strongly, tracking Wall Street gains after US President Donald Trump walked back threats of tariffs on Europe linked to Greenland. South Korea led the rally, with the Kospi jumping 1.8% to break above the 5,000 level. The Kosdaq added 1.5% despite South Korea reporting a surprise 0.3% quarterly economic contraction and its weakest annual growth since 2020. Japan's Nikkei climbed 1.7% even as December export growth missed expectations. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and China's CSI 300 posted modest gains, while Australia's ASX 200 rose nearly 0.7%. US markets also rallied overnight, with the Dow, S&P 500 and Nasdaq all up more than 1%. Gold prices pared gains on Wednesday after retreating from record highs as easing geopolitical tensions boosted global risk. Spot gold slipped back after touching an all-time peak near $4,888 an ounce, last trading modestly higher. Markets reacted after US President Donald Trump walked back threats of tariffs tied to Greenland, saying outlines of a deal had been reached with NATO. That news lifted equities and triggered some profit-taking in precious metals. Despite the pullback, gold remains strongly supported, up 64% in 2025 and already 11% this year. Oil prices edged higher as markets reacted to easing geopolitical risks after US President Donald Trump backed away from tariff threats tied to Greenland. Brent crude rose slightly to around $65 a barrel. The move follows earlier gains this week, also supported by supply disruptions in Kazakhstan after outages at major oil fields. Trump ruled out using force and signaled a possible deal with Denmark and NATO over Greenland, reducing fears of a US-Europe trade war and supporting the outlook for global oil demand. However, comments that Washington could still act if Iran resumes nuclear activity helped keep prices supported. Gains were capped by rising US crude and gasoline inventories, reinforcing concerns about oversupply in the market. The US dollar strengthened sharply after President Donald Trump stepped back from threats to impose tariffs over Greenland, easing market tensions. The euro slid about 0.33%, while the Swiss franc dropped nearly 0.8% as investors moved out of safe havens. Trump said he had agreed to the outline of a future Greenland deal with NATO and ruled out military action, calming global markets and sparking a relief rally in stocks, with the S&P 500 up more than 1.5%. The dollar also gained against the yen, which weakened after Japan's prime minister called snap elections and signaled looser fiscal policy. OpenAI is expanding its efforts to convince global governments to build more data centers and encourage greater usage of artificial intelligence in areas such as education, health, and disaster preparedness. The initiative, called OpenAI for Countries, will expand the reach of its products and help close the gap between countries with broad access to AI technology and nations that do not yet have the capacity. OpenAI also hopes to encourage deeper usage of its AI tools, adding that AI systems are capable of more complex tasks than many people realize. The Gates Foundation and OpenAI are setting up a $50 million partnership to help several African countries use artificial intelligence to improve their health systems and mitigate the impact of international aid cuts. The partnership, called Horizon 1000, plans to work with African leaders to determine how best to use the technology, starting with Rwanda. In a blog post announcing the launch, Gates said that in poorer countries with enormous health worker shortages and lack of health systems infrastructure, AI can be a game changer in expanding access to quality care. Chinese robotics firm UBTech has signed a deal with plane maker Airbus to supply humanoid robots for use in aviation manufacturing. UBTech said Airbus has already purchased its latest industrial humanoid robot, the Walker S2. The company said both sides will jointly expand the use of humanoid robots in aerospace manufacturing in the future. In recent years, Chinese humanoid robots have shown advanced agility, including doing somersaults, running a half marathon, and playing football. Philippines will restore access to Elon Musk's AI chatbot Grok following commitments from its developer to remove image manipulation tools that previously raised child safety concerns. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center said the app will no longer use content manipulation and that it will continue monitoring compliance with local rules. The ban came last week over concerns that Grok could generate sexualized images, including content posed as a child safety risk. Eightfold AI, a venture capital-backed artificial intelligence hiring platform used by Microsoft, PayPal, and many other Fortune 500 companies, is being sued in California for allegedly compiling reports used to screen job applicants without their knowledge. The lawsuit claims the company violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act and California laws, giving candidates the right to review and challenge reports. Plaintiffs say job seekers were not informed or given a chance to dispute errors. That's it on this edition of Speed News. News and updates will continue on the other side of this short break. Keep watching WION World is One.